Okay, so last time I think we finished until viewing the JSON in the table format like this one. So we have one simple Ajax. Okay, so in the next chapter we will learn more about the Ajax. So for this chapter, I would like to just show you the very simple Ajax. I guess. Okay, let me start by. Oh, okay, we are already getting the movie data. So we already use this one. So this is movie data. So if you take a look, yeah, this is the list of movie in Thailand, and then um, this data is in the form of JSON, and you can see here like the attribute count, okay? And then we have the attribute next. So it is the movie list, and then previous is null, and then results. So we have some movie here, and we can extract all those movies into our system. So in this case, I already created this one, and then yeah, you can take a look on the link. We have this API View Json. See, yeah, we get this information. So, for example, you want to extract some movie lists from that website, and then you want to update every day, or you want to update every, yeah, 1 week or every 1 month. Okay, so you can just refresh your page, and then you can extract all the data into your web page. So you don't need to make your own database, but you can just cut the JSON, or you can get the XML in their API. Okay, so what is the API? In this case, this is their API. So we can get their API, and then we want to put it into the example. This example means the table example that we already defined here. And this format will be in the data table. And the data table will have 4 columns. So the 4 columns are ID, title, language, real estate. So how can you define this one? So you need to take a look on the data set in this JSON. So you can see the first is ID. So what is the ID here? You can see here, this is the ID. Okay. So we want to get from this detail, but it is too complex. Okay. You might be confused what kind of attributes that I can use for this one, because I know that this is a movie. Then yeah, I just use the API here. So if you go to this one, maybe it is a bit difficult to understand because some of them are in Thailand language, but yeah, they are in the English title. And then yeah, you can see, okay, this is the PCS theater, this is the popular movie, and then this is your last chance, and etc. Okay, and yeah, they don't provide any link to the API. Yeah, fortunately they share the API. So if you want to check on the movie, yeah, these are the movie. So someone shared the API with this one, then I would like to reuse this API. And how can we reuse this API is looking at the title. Yeah. So I know this title is related to the movie. So for example, this one, Avatar 2. Then I would like to use the title. Yeah. And then I can see that, okay, there are some other attributes like the ID. Okay, this is the language. Maybe this is also important. Okay. And then you can look into this detail. Okay. So for example, this one is Avatar 2. And then the detail is here. We have the cast, the storyline, and then we have the director, and then this is the storyline in Thailand language, and then we have the trailer and so on. So you can just call this attribute if you want to extract the data into your web page. So that's why you can change this one. It depends on what kind of information you want to extract, but some of them might not be available. So maybe they block. That's what you need to usually communicate with the data provider, whether you are allowed to get the data or not. Even though you can see here, but sometimes you cannot get the data easily because they are, for example, like this one, this thumbnail. This thumbnail, they put it into the Amazon. So the Amazon have a kind of security. So when you access to the Amazon, if you don't have any ID or if you don't have any access, then you cannot get the data. Okay. But for this text, I guess there is no issue. Okay. So if you want to take a look, maybe you can put one more. Let's see. I want to put director. And then I want to get this one. I want to put one more with director. Okay. So let's see. Now you can see there is something wrong with this one. Oh, maybe it's not this one. I need to delete this. Yeah. Okay. So you can see here. Yeah, it is request unknown parameter director for row 0, column 4. Okay, there is no director. Let's see this one. Yeah, we have this director, but we cannot extract that one. I'm not sure why. Yeah, sometimes you cannot get the data, so you need to check which kind of format that is available. So maybe I make a wrong format. Yeah, so request unknown. So sometimes you need to check what is the best way to get the data, and then you can check what is the available data that you can extract in your web page. Okay, so in this case, the director is not available. So you can see here the data source is from the result. So here is the result. I guess because the director is not in the results. Okay, so you can see here in the results we have only ID, title, language, and real estate. And then inside the details, you will see another attribute like ID, language, title, director. Okay, so some of this information is not available, so you need to do like looping. Okay, I think I will not discuss this one. It takes some time to do the looping for this one because this is the example for the basic Ajax. So you can take a look on the data structure, and if you cannot find the schema, then you need to figure out by yourself. Nowadays, there are many companies like Kakao or Naver. They provide the API and they give you the schema. So in that case, you can just use that schema and figure out what kind of data that you can get. And usually they give also the function, what kind of data that you can extract and what kind of data that you need to pay. So that kind of things. Because I don't have any access to the Kakao, maybe I will not teach you the Kakao and the Never. But if you need my help for your team project about the Kakao or the Never, then I can help you. Okay. So I think the last part of this section is just showing the REST. Okay, the REST means you want to show the REST API, and yeah, I think the result is similar. Yeah, so let's see if I want to view the REST in the post. So I can go to the view.py. So I would like to use the REST framework. Okay. So in the previous one, when we use the view feed, we get the data and then show in our HTML. In this View JSON, so we got JSON data from any website. So we already learned from two websites. The first website is from our own dataset, which is the book data.json, and the other JSON is from the movie. So as long as you have the JSON data, you can get the data and then show in your website. Or we can just use the REST framework. So how can we utilize the REST framework? The REST framework is we want to show the result in the view rest.html, and then I would like to show you how to use the Ajax, the basic Ajax. But before we extract the Ajax, so you need to put one link. So this link is the view res. So in the views, you already put the function view res, and then you need to put the URLs. You need to put one more, which is view res. There is one error. This error because you need to get the function that you already defined, which is a view res. So I'm going to view based on the REST framework. And what is the REST framework? In this case, I would like to use the Ajax. So here is the Ajax. So please copy and paste, and I would like to explain to you after we finish this one. So you are going to make another template. So you are going to make the view res .html and then paste here. Okay, so basically it is the same with what you already did before. The first is update the view, and then next is update the URLs, and then the last one, update the templates, or in this case we are using the HTML. Okay, so once you finish this one, let's see what is the result if I want to view the rest. Okay, let me open a new tab. So this is the result. So you may ask, what is the difference? This is the same table. The only difference is only the data. Am I right? Yes. The only difference is the data, but okay, let's take a look on the code. So when we use the view width, okay, so when we use the view width here is getting the data from the Python. So you can take a look on the on the views, and then this is the view width. So you define the link on the backend, or you define the link on your server. So this is what we call as usually the backend developer. So if you are the backend developer and you know how to deal with this, so you define everything in your backend, and then the front end will just extract the data. So extracting the data here is using the entry, and then we just get the fits, and then we want to check for every data in the feed. After we look for all the data, yeah, we want to show it into the HTML. So in this case, we do not do anything in the client side. So the backend, okay, or the server will do. In the second case, the View JSON. In the View JSON, the server didn't do anything. The server is just giving one page or just giving one link. However, the client is able to modify or is able to do related with the view. So in this case, we are making a table, and then the data is from JSON from any other data or any other web. So we are using this Thailand movie. So we are extracting the data and we put it into our web page. So this is using the JSON data. If we are using this REST API, okay, so we are making this, if you still remember this API. So this is the API using the REST framework. Okay. So this is the API using the REST framework. And if you want to take a look on the first example, yeah, this is the extraction based on the JSON view. Okay, so can you see the difference? Okay, so in this case, we are using the JSON view, or we use the JSON data. Okay, but here we use the REST framework. So we still get the JSON view, but in the REST framework, we also are able to modify, to delete, to create. Okay, but of course the idea is still the same. We can see the data with any more functions, with create, with delete, with update, and it is in one framework. Okay. And using this REST framework, we want to show it into the table. Okay. So the idea is similar. We can just get from this REST framework API. I think if you put this with the JSON view, it's almost the same. Okay. If you put this with this JSON view, it's almost the same. But if in the JSON view, you need to define what is the key. Okay. Here, the data source is book. So everything inside the book will be available in the table. So you can see everything inside the book. So the title, the author, okay, the date, and the publisher will be shown in the table. In the REST framework, we don't have anything about the data. So we don't have any information about the whether it is book or it is a post or something. Okay. But we want to get all the data. Okay. So in the JSON view, you can select what is the source. If you are using the REST framework, then you just get the data that has been set up. So that's why the company usually they use the REST framework because they do not want to share all the data. They want to share only some of the data. And using the REST framework, it is more convenient for the company. If you need to use this JSON, it means you will share all the data. Okay. That's the plus and the minus. Okay. So using this JSON, it is good if you want to share all the data. But for the view in the REST framework, you can, if you are a company, you can select what kind of data that you want to share. Okay. How you can select the data? Here. Do you still remember serializers? So in the serializers, yeah, you want to post ID, title, content, created it, and updated it. So it means everything here you will show it in the REST framework. So let's see. This one is ID, title, content, created it, and updated it. Everything you will see in the REST framework. If I delete one, so I do not want to show the ID. What happened? then the ID is not there. So you can select some data, you can select what you want to share to the other users. Okay. But in the JSON, yeah, everything will be shared. Okay. So you cannot select that one. That's the benefit using the REST framework. Okay. So I hope that yeah, you can have idea about this JSON view REST framework. And then if you can implement in your team project, that will be perfect as well. So we learned this section about the XML, JSON, and then we already learned about the REST framework, okay? And then we learned about the basic Ajax. Any questions, comments? No? Then let's go to the next section. I already put the new material. So we will learn how to deal with the Crude. Okay, maybe you are familiar with this one. Okay, we are going to use Ajax to deal with the Crude. So you will ask, do we need to use Ajax? Why don't we just use the database? We can just use what we learned before the mid exam. Now we learn the Crude with Ajax. So what is the benefit? What is the importance of using Ajax? Okay, so we will see in this chapter how the Ajax can do with the Crude and what is the benefit. So this PowerPoint will discuss about the Crude. It is about the Crude with the asynchronous JavaScript and XML. So it is the term for the Ajax. And I would like to discuss a little bit about jQuery, because in the Ajax before you saw some symbols, but if I don't explain about the jQuery, I'm afraid that you will not be able to understand fully about the code. So I will explain a little bit about the jQuery, and we are going to implement the jQuery with basic syntax of Ajax. Okay, first is, why do we need Ajax for Crude? So I explained there are at least three importance with the Ajax on Crude. The first is, it can be used to provide an inline edit in a table. Do you understand? Inline edit. So if you return back to the materials we learned before the mid exam, whenever you edit, okay, so when you edit, yeah, you can do editing, but when you edit, you need to provide one more page, or you need to provide one form. Okay. If you are using Ajax, you can edit directly in the table. So you don't need to make a new form. Just use the current form. It can create a new model instance without going back and forth in the website. So in the HTML or in the previous materials we learned before the mid exam, whenever we want to update or whenever we want to delete, there should be one button, submit. Okay, so we need to submit. So when you click OK, there is an event to connect to the backend. Okay. And then when it is connected to the backend, we call it, this is going back and forth. So we go to the other form and then return back. Okay. But in the Ajax, we don't need to go and back like that one. So it happens directly in only one table. And it can do CRUD operation in the application. And yeah, it can manipulate the models and the database without having to refresh the web pages each time. So this is the most important thing, okay? Because when you are making the web, for example, I want to see this one, and then maybe you want to update the data. You will press F5. F5 means this one, refresh, page 0 고침. Okay. So when you refresh this one, if your data is small, then there will be no issue. There will be no problem. But if your data is very huge, yeah, it will be a big issue for the countries with low speed internet. For example, yeah, in the Indonesia, the internet speed is not that fast, and it will be time consuming to extract the web page. So that kind of thing will happen if you are still using the backend. But if you are using the Ajax, it means everything will be done in the client. For example, this one. I have server. Okay. So the server is in so let's say the server is in Indonesia. Okay. So the internet speed is not not fast like Korea, but you need to access from Korea. Okay. Whenever you connect to this server, because the data is huge, then you will see the web page very slow because the internet speed in Indonesia is slower than Korea. Then what can we do? Okay, we don't need to access the server to access the data. Instead of accessing the server, we just put the Ajax. So any client in Korea just can do editing very fast because it will not access the server. Everything will be done in the client because in Korea the internet is much better than Indonesia. That's one of the reasons we can do with the Ajax. So this is the structure how the Ajax can do for us. So the first, yeah, number one, it is an initial request by the browser. So the browser will request to the server, and then the number two, the complete page is rendered by the server along with the JavaScript Ajax engine, and then sent to the client HTML, CSS, JavaScript Ajax engine. So it will show everything in the first time. Okay, and then after we as the client can see the server result. Okay, so this is the first. Okay, this is the first time. After we can see all the things. Yeah, of course we need to access the server for the first time. But after we get all the results, then yeah, we can do the JavaScript calls, and it will go to the Ajax engine. So the Ajax engine already set, and then everything will go to the Ajax engine, and the Ajax engine will connect to the server, and then maybe the server will send only partial XML data, and then it will send in the format of HTML and CSS. Okay. So this Ajax engine need to be set up at the first time. So it needs to be set up at the first time, and then after we have this one, then the Ajax engine will do the remaining operation. Okay. So the number 3, we want to do the JavaScript calls, and then number 4, we will make the XML HTTP request to the server. And then once we call the XML HTTP request, so the server will respond. So it will give maybe the XML format, or sometimes it can be in the JSON format. And then after we finish with this one to entering the Ajax engine, then the Ajax engine will process to the HTML and CSS. So that's the concept of the operation. So yeah, before doing more explanation with the concepts, just let's do with examples. Yeah, I thought that I can just use this basic RAS, okay? Because if I go back to the big project, no, the big project is already complex, okay? So let's just use the very simple project, this one, because if it is very big and bigger, maybe you will get confused. Okay? So let's just use the basic RAS project, and then we will modify some parts, and maybe we will improve some parts. Okay. So first we will modify the models in the post, and then yeah, we will create additional templates. So we will create a new folder, and then we will make views and URL for this Crude, for this CRUD. Okay, first let's modify the models. I want to add 2 more columns. So this is a kind of practice as well when you have your team project. So this week, I would like to know about your database. So in your database, maybe you think that your data is already good, but after you meet me, there might be some feedback. So you need to update the table. You need to update the columns, or maybe you need to update the data type. Okay. So that kind of modification, yeah, we will also learn. Okay. So for example, in the previous models, we have title, we have content, we have created at, and then we have updated at. Now I would like to add those 2 lines. So I would like to add like and dislike. So I want to know if I have this post, how many people like my post, and how many people dislike my post. So this will be in the additional of the models. So let's go to the models. So in the models, in the previous models, we have only 4 columns: title, content, created at, and updated at. So let's giving more space here, and then I will put like and dislike. Okay. And if you finish, do this statement. You still remember how to run this statement? Okay, there are 2 ways to run this one. You can run make migrations post and migrate in the terminal. Okay, you can run here, Okay, how you can run this one? You need to type Python manage.py. Okay, and then you can call make migration post like this one. Yeah, of course, this one is fine. Okay. But you need to do this one inside the folder. Here is the basic REST folder. That's one way. Or the other way is using the tools. So in the tools, you can just run manage.py. Okay, so last time we already learned this one. So if it is in the terminal, you will run Python manage.py before creating make migration post. So I would like to run the manage.py to run make migration post. That's the meaning. If you use this manage.py, if you can see here in the bottom, okay, so this is the function provided by the PyCharm. So PyCharm give you a convenient way. You don't need to type everything like Python manage.py make migration something. Yeah, this is too long. So the Python give you a function, just define what function that you want to do. Okay, I want to do make migrations. So the Python manage.py already done in PyCharm. So we will do the make migrations and then mention what is the app name. Host. Okay, then press enter. So if you have several app name, then you can also do with multiple app names. Okay. After you have this migration post, you will see that there are two more attributes. So dislike and like. And after you make migration post, you can run migrate. So you can run migrate. Sometimes you can define your app name here, but if you want to generate all the application, then just do migrate and everything or all apps will be migrated. So if you run this, you will see after you migrate, yeah, all migration happens in the admin authorization content type post sessions, and then now the post has been migrated into the Django framework. So after this, you can try with the adding more items. So the like and dislike starts from 0, and then yeah, you can put any values. Yeah, dislike and like. You can go to the admin page. So I forgot what I use this one. Admin. admin 223. Okay. So please remember your ID and your password. Okay. That's why last time I posted the ID and password because I'm not good in my memory to remember all the things. So if you check this one, yes, I put this one. So I put the admin and then I put the password hoof IME 203 for the password. I'm not sure if you're using this one or not, but if you're using this one, I think you can just use this for the admin ID. And then you will see the posts. You can change. So there are 4 posts. So we already did with the REST framework. Okay. So we already did this REST framework. If you update this one, nothing happened. Why? because we still do not modify the serializers. So we do not put this like and this like. Yeah, if you want to do this one, okay, then you can get like and dislike. So everything will be in 0. Or for example, okay, I want to update from this one. Yeah, if you still remember, I want to update number 1. Then the like is 0. So maybe I will, yeah, it's up to you. Just make it random. For example, 101. And then you want to put, then if you see everything, now it changed to 101. If you want to update here, if you want to update in the post and in the admin, here you can see that now the data has been synchronized. Okay. Oh, okay. I think it's the time for break. Okay, let's have the break and I will continue after the break.